Hello everyone! Welcome to Mindful Lingua's Mental Health Podcast! So hello everyone, so glad to have all of you here today. Today we have our esteemed guest, none other than our UM student. He's basically a renowned student from Counseling University. Well, in fact, we have brought the president of UM's Counseling Society. He's addressed by Andi. Hi Andi, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So how are you?
I'm really good today. How are you guys?
All good. And we are getting more anticipated in today's mental health podcast.
I'm very excited as well.
Yeah. Perhaps you can share about the World Mental Health slogan or its focus.
Yeah. So I think that's something to do with today's topic, which is in view with World Mental Health Day theme for 2024, which is mental health in the workplace. Right? There's a whole slogan about it. It's quite long, I don't remember, but the thing is, it's called mental health in the workplace.
Nice.
I see. So could you tell us a little bit why or what inspired you to become a student counselor?
Okay. So for a little bit of context, as of now, I am still a student. I'm a trainee counselor because I'm in my final year. So as a trainee counselor, right now, currently I'm doing a lot of counseling sessions. I just got back from a few sessions before this, and I think when you ask me like what inspired me to be a counselor, I think it would be more important to ask me why I chose this field, right? Because I think just for a little bit of context for my personal self, this is actually my second time taking a degree, and the reason why I took this degree is because I feel like there's a need to help people. That's always been something that I've always wanted to do, help people. And I think as a counselor, these are the words that we need. These are the people that we look for, right? We don't really look at who's number one, number two. We look at the people that other people don't look at, right? So people who are at risk, orphans, homeless people, drug addicts, prisoners, all these people who, just like you and I, they're human beings, and they need help as well. And so that kind of inspired me to become a counselor. That's why I chose counseling.
That sounds very thoughtful and it's very touching, because at the end of the day, life is too short and we all get to live only once. So spread kindness. Kindness goes a very long way.
Exactly.
Yeah, perhaps Brian would like to ask more on that.
Well, I work full-time and study full-time as well. And sometimes I get very overwhelmed. So can you give me any suggestions to manage this kind of stress?
So you're talking more about like stress between work and
Actually shuffling between the two things.
and also your personal, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So what you're talking about is more so about work-life balance, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So actually, like, may I know like how many hours do you work in a day?
I work 9 hours a day.
And then you still
Every day, yes. And then classes on weekends.
I see. So you're always on the road.
Yep.
And you have time to rest or anything?
No.
No
I
rest.
get 3 hours of sleep every each night.
And what happens when you get home? Do you like think about work?
Yes, constantly.
Exactly.
It's never ending challenge, yes.
So see, that's a very interesting point, because a lot of the time people think that work-life balance is about your physical presence at work or your physical working, yourself working, right? But actually there was a study, but it's quite an old study, I'm not sure if it's been updated yet, that two researchers, they actually said that work-life balance is not so much about physical work as it is about your mental work, right? So they call it as cognitive work intrusion, CWI. So CWI is basically when you get home, your mind is still at the workplace.
It's still at the workplace, yes.
You're still thinking about your work, right? So you said like you have 3 hours of sleep. So I assume like right after you get back, you're still thinking about work.
Yep.
Yeah. And so that's an imbalance in life, because it's not so much about your physical time being doing work. Because if that were the case, then doctors would be burnt out by now, right? They wouldn't have work-life balance. But we see that doctors are really fine, they're quite healthy as well. So it's not really about that, right? This is the theory that they came with, is that it's about your mind, that overwork, burnout, and work-life balance is a mental line that you need to put on yourself. So when you're asking about like how do you balance that, right? How do you balance that? I would say for now, maybe if you need to draw a line in your mind.
A barrier.
Yeah, a barrier, exactly, right? You will say, okay, now's the time to stop. And if I can share like one experience, like one of our counseling alumni, he's working as a prison counselor. Yeah.
Wow.
He's working as a prison counselor, and he told us that he came to give a talk in one of our classes, and he said one of the ways that he manages work-life balance is that once he leaves the prison, then it doesn't exist in his mind. Prison doesn't exist in his mind. Everything that happened at work doesn't exist. And when he's at work, his phone is not on, he doesn't think about his family. So there's a clear distinction between what is work and what is his life.
So it's like living in the moment.
Exactly, yes.
Like separating between the two.
Yeah, exactly.
I would like to ask one thing, being a student like yourself, and I believe that even though, like Brian, I'm also working professional, and I believe that all of us are lifelong students, just like how we are pursuing masters at the moment. And from your point of view, perhaps being a training counselor, what could be the most stress triggers coming from university's perspective?
Yeah.
Because I would say that in today's life, it's much more complicated because it's getting more complex. Those days, we tend to just have one goal at the moment. And nowadays, students, they can be a full-time student. And at the same time, they can be having part-time jobs. So still, the student, at the same time, juggling with work and so on. What could be the stress triggers?
Okay, I'm only going to be talking about my own experiences because I don't really have all the research and data to back it up. Of course, that's my experience. But before I talk about my experience, I just want to make a disclaimer that as a training counselor, I am obliged to follow the code of conduct as a counselor. So anything I say here, it's just an overview of what my experience is. It's not, it doesn't have anything to do with any of my clients because I need to keep their confidential, right? Yeah. So I would say in the 4 years that I've been studying in Liyuan, right? I do have a lot of students who came for counseling, and they do have a lot of triggers. I think it really depends on the person itself, right? Because some people, they might face financial issues, and this could be a real stress trigger for them, especially considering that they come from other places, like maybe they come from the countryside, maybe the villages, and then they move to KL, where everything is much more expensive. Exactly, yeah. And that's also one thing, right? Adaptation, because we tend to forget that even though we're all Malaysians, we all come from different places and we have different contexts, personal contexts, right? So coming to a new place, a new mode of studying, new people, it can very much trigger your stress in how you adapt with people, right? And that adaptation comes from anything, like financial, social, the workload that you have. So there's so many triggers actually, and sometimes even relationships as well. Can you imagine, like most of our students who are undergrad, right? They're between the ages of what, 20 to 19 to 23, for example, right? And it's probably their first time away from their parents or their family. How does that affect them? Maybe their mother's calling them every day, or their parents are calling them every day, and they're maybe too busy to even pick up the phone. And that sort of like stresses them out a lot. So there's a lot of triggers actually on why students get stressed, but we need to look at them from a case-by-case basis. So that's why I say like I'm just going to talk about my personal experience. I don't really have the data. I think if you can do like a research, you can probably find like what the main trigger is. Like for now, that's what I've been experiencing.
I see. Do you have any recommendations, or do you can you tell us any practical steps that students who are under stress can take, and to identify if their stress is starting to turn into burnout?
Yeah. Okay. So so when we talk about burnout is. Do you think there's a difference between stress and burnout?
Yes.
There is.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So when you say yes, is it because you've experienced it, or?
Yes, we all have.
And so, yeah.
So maybe you guys can say a bit like, what do you guys think? What the difference is between
Stress, you feel stressed every day. It's a normal thing, but burnout is an extreme form of it. It's when you just shut down. So you just wanna just stop everything. It's like the whole world's against you. Yeah, even your mental health is against yourself.
Exhausting.
Yeah.
And you can no longer tolerate it anymore.
Exactly.
You just wanna hide away.
Isolation.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly what burnout is. I think you guys understand, right? So stress is what you feel every day, right? burnout is a form of extreme stress whereby like at that point you just lose motivation, you just lose the will. You feel like you just can't contribute anything. You like there's nothing you can do to fix it. Right? That's like what burnout is, and your mental health is just constantly down. And when you feel burnout, you feel tired, right? Not just mentally, but also physically and emotionally, right? That's just a constant state of feeling. And if you don't treat burnout, it can actually lead to depression, something worse as depression, and so on and so forth, right? I can't really make a diagnosis because that's not really my expertise, but it can happen, right? And so when we say about like things like how do we identify like what is the stress and what is burnout, I think when you mention those symptoms like you feel like you want to just be alone, you feel like it's too much and all that, those are clear indicators of burnout. So yeah, those are symptoms of burnout. So when you're able to identify the symptoms, that's when you know that you need to do something. Of course, you can there's a lot of things you can do. You can go to counseling, of course. I always recommend people to go to counseling. You can take time off to do healing. You could do like, there's a lot of things that you can do. Again, we try to look at it as a case-by-case basis because there's a lot of factors to take into consideration. But I think the question was like, how do you identify, right?
Yes, before the burnout happens.
Yeah, so before the burnout happens, right? I think it's very important that we are aware of our emotions. If I ask you, like, are you able to identify the emotions that you felt today? Maybe Brian, are you able to do that?
But even if we are able to identify, technically we won't really just share it with anyone. Like technically we will hide it. Even if we are burnt out, we will still hide it.
Yeah. But are you able to identify your emotions?
Yes, I am.
For the whole day. Can you like name any 3 emotions that you feel today?
Stress, burnout, depressed, and all those things.
All of them, right?
I was actually texting Dinda earlier about how mentally damaged I am through this week. Yeah.
So very negative emotions, right? Not negative. We don't really see that's bad or good emotions, but very like overwhelming emotions, right? Yeah. So I think a lot of the times people they're not too aware of them. I really believe that a lot of people they keep it to themselves. But the reason why I say it's important to understand your emotions is that when you are in tune with your emotions, because one thing is that there's something called psychological makeup, right? Psychological makeup is your up here, your cognitive affects your affective, your emotions, and your emotions affect your behavior. So when you feel tired, all of that, you need to know why. Why?
What's mentally draining?
What's mentally draining you? Identify your emotions. What's causing that stress? What's causing that burnout? You need to identify those. So when you're in tune with your own emotions, then you have to say, oh, I'm not feeling like myself usually. And then you start to identify what's causing this, right? And for some people, they might not be able to do that. So that's why I recommend going to a counselor, because a counselor helps you identify those type of things.
I see, yeah, I agree. Some people, they don't even want to open up.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are so enclosed or they're so withdrawn that they themselves don't know themselves that well. Because they don't try to understand their emotions. They just want to finish the task and that's it. And sometimes they don't realize it until it's already too late and they don't know how to function anymore.
I agree. Yeah. So it's very important that we open up.
I think I would like to take the back seat and ask you, just like what Dinda has said, there's something that should be preventing or perhaps stopping someone to seek out for help. Because I would say that, on a general basis, mental health is not jargon anymore. And physical illness can still be easily cured, I believe. When you see a person, I feel like she's having cold or mild fever, perhaps if I can hand you some medications, and after a few days you feel like, okay, things are getting better. But mental health, you never know what's really happening behind the scenes. I may be smiling, for example, but you never know, there can be like oceans of emotions that are happening in me, right? On that basis, being a student, like how Brian and Dinda they have said, things are getting more complex because we are juggling a lot of things on a daily basis. What could be the factors that are preventing or stopping students especially? Yes, especially in the younger generation, from not showing what they're feeling, but perhaps they would like to bottle up everything in them, and I would say that it's catastrophic.
Maybe you can ask Brian, he himself said this now.
Okay, perhaps I can,
I I think there's a lot of distractions these days. You know, on your phone, every time you're done finish a task that's stressing you out, but instead of actually doing it, you're just doom scrolling on your phone. So that kind of hinders your ability to actually finish a task that's actually causing the stress in itself. So it's not that I'm not able to identify it, I am. It's that when I do identify it, my brain doesn't want to solve the issue at hand, even though it knows the issue. So how do I overcome that?
Do you seek help? Have you tried seeking help before?
No. I don't have time to.
Exactly, that's one of the things essentially is time, right? When you have so much on your plate that you don't have time to take care of yourself, and that's exactly what burnout is, isn't it? Because if you talk about burnout is too much work, very little reward, right? That's when you get burnout. So you have so much on your plate that you don't even have enough time to take care of yourself, both mentally and sometimes even physically. I've known people who they work so hard, they don't even eat. Maybe in a day they eat only once, and they will eat like an apple or something, right?
Been there, done that.
Yeah, and they're not even fasting or anything, they're just doing that because they're working, right? So when it comes to time, right, I think it's important for you to understand what your priority is. Is your health a priority to you or not? Right? So because what's the point of working and all this stuff, right? Because at the end of the day, it's for the quality of life. But what's the point of achieving all of that when your quality of life is deteriorating anyways, right? You're not gonna achieve that at the end of the day. And I think also when we talk about, we say it's not a jargon anymore, mental health is not a jargon. I agree, mental health is not a jargon. But it's one of those things where people don't think it happens to them. People think it happens to other people. Yeah, we know like people are stressed.
I don't get stressed. I can handle this.
You're in denial of yourself, you know? It's normal, you know, it's stress, right? Because mental health is not something that you can see. So you need to have it in order for you to understand what it is, right? So in that case, like how are you able to even identify when it's too late, right? So that's why we always say, I think I can appreciate in some of the foreign students, right, from outside of Malaysia, especially from European countries, they're very quick to seek help when it comes to mental health. Because they understand that, you know, even a small thing that's stressing them up could lead to something else, right? But you know, when we think about ourselves, like, oh, stress, it's normal, right? Yeah, everyone goes through stress. Does everyone really go through stress the way you're facing it?
It's a cultural thing.
Yeah, it's a cultural thing.
It's a cultural thing, yeah.
It could be
just toughen out, you know.
Because like Asian also teach us to be independent.
You can do it. You can do it too.
Yes.
So it's not enough to just talk the talk, but you just have to walk the talk, right? Walk the walk, whatever it is, right?
With such time constraints, right, do you believe that mental health is more important than physical health, or vice versa?
It goes hand in hand, because you know your mental health affects your physical health as well, right? Actually, and also vice versa. That's actually something very interesting, something quite new. I'm actually trying to get, I'm reading more about it now. It's something quite new. It's called metabolic psychiatry, right? So it researches about how the things that you eat affect your mental health.
Yes.
Right. So, for example, a very small, clear example of that is when you drink caffeine, you get anxiety. Right?
You get stressed out.
You get stressed out. You start shaking. You know, there's a test, a psychological test to see your anxiety. When you do that, they will ask you, did you drink coffee before this? Because you know, do you drink coffee often, right? Because it will affect. So even the things that we eat, you know, because what we eat is our physical health, but it also affects our mental health. It goes hand in hand. That's why some of the things that we recommend people if you're having stress or anything is to move around, take a walk, you know, be active a bit. Yeah. Because you know, for example, depression, one of the symptoms is that you just sit in the room all day because you don't have the willpower to go out, you don't have the energy.
So actually, is there any certain foods that can actually reduce stress?
I'm not sure about that one.
Oh.
It's quite new, so I heard it from a doctor, and I was like, oh, you know, there's something new as well. We're not really like, exposed to it yet, but it's quite interesting. Yeah.
Like even the food they make in the pound.
Exactly, yeah, it's quite interesting, isn't it? Yeah. So I think, you know, eat healthy, guys. Eat healthy.
I think my next question is leading towards lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
some people I've seen, they would really want to have a different perception in terms of changing their lifestyle. But again, it goes hand in hand. The way you think, it will determine your lifestyle, or perhaps your circle of friends. Changing a lifestyle can be stressful for some people, but I would really want to know how, to what extent does a lifestyle can be an omnipotent factor in creating a stressful life, or perhaps it can lessen down the stress level or the otherwise.
Can you give an example of what you mean by lifestyles? Like, give an example. I mean, lifestyle, right? It covers a lot of things, right? So what are you?
Perhaps one basic example would be a routine. Like lately, a few months back, I have started to involve myself into the spiritual journey. I used to believe in God, yes, definitely, but I would say the practice of the spiritual journey has really developed myself better. I've also seen some other cases that they find it very stressful to adapt a new lifestyle, and that alone is like a constant factor to ever think that how well am I going to be, a disciplined person? Am I able to sustain further? Yeah, I would really want to know, especially being a student, lifestyle. Again, some of you, like example, different people, they have different backgrounds, and sometimes we can be easily influential by seeing our friends coping up with different coping mechanisms. Yeah, perhaps I would like to know more on that from a student basis.
Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, right? So it has to do with a lot of adaptation and self-adaptation, right? So we adapt. Maybe the reason why our lifestyle changes is because we had to adapt to different things, right? So perhaps a change of lifestyle could be good, a change of lifestyle could be bad, right? So if you start hanging out with people, as you said, maybe the people around you are negatively influencing you, you start taking substances, you start picking up bad habits, and that will deteriorate your mental health in a way. And it will also take away from a lot of things in your life, right? So for example, if I had to just give an example, right? This is by no means anybody that I know or anything, but from a person who doesn't smoke, and then they start meeting friends who start smoking, and they fall into that peer pressure because they say, oh, smoking reduces your stress.
Influential.
Not only does that affect your mental health, it also affects your wallet, your financial. And as we mentioned in the beginning, your financial could be a factor, a stress-inducing factor. So then you just add more and more and more to your deteriorating mental health. So I would say it's like, it's very good. It's very important that you surround yourself with good people. That if you know that you're an easily influenced person, surround yourself with good people, or at least surround yourself with people who you think would be good for you, right? And as you mentioned with coping mechanisms, it's true. Every person has their own coping mechanisms, but a coping mechanism can be good or bad, right? So some people, they believe that their coping mechanism is by drinking, but how much of drinking can actually help you in mental health, right? You might become an alcohol addict at the end of the day if you're drinking too much, right? But I don't want to really go into that, make a judgment on whether that's good or bad or anything, but it's important for you to understand what it is. You evaluate yourself. Are the coping mechanisms that I'm doing right now helpful? What are the benefits of it, and what are the cons of it, right? What are the negative sides of it? And as for students, we come here, we meet all types of different people, so many different types of people. You sometimes just have to adapt yourself to them, right? Yeah. So I understand that it's just lifestyle does affect you as a student as well. Not just a student, everywhere actually, everywhere, right? Because we're all trying to become. We're trying to achieve what we call as self-actualization. We want to become the ideal person in our minds.
But we also want to just fit in.
Exactly, yes. Yeah, that's also one thing.
What if you're in a situation where you can't change the people surrounding you? What if you're in a setting, like an office, and the environment is just,
The toxic environment.
Yeah,
Toxic environment.
Yeah, you can't get out of it. I mean, you just got the job, but then you discover these are bad people.
Or not nice, they talk bad things about you behind your back.
You can't really avoid it. You can just okay, ciao.
Organization politics, right?
Yeah, you just, sometimes you don't have a choice. Then how do you manage that?
I understand. Yeah, actually, it's very interesting. You say, oh, you don't have a choice. because I think recently they did a study, I'm not sure when, this was like during COVID, after COVID. So many people actually, they're putting their self-interest ahead of their occupation nowadays. I forget the exact statistics, but they say like more and more youthful people, the younger generation, prefer to be unemployed than be at a job where their needs are not met. And when we're talking about needs, right, there's a lot of needs, right? There's a model of organization psychology. He said like there's 6 types of needs that you have, right? Like for example, autonomy is very important for you to have autonomy. It's very important for you to have a purpose and all that, and then so on and so forth. So a lot of young people nowadays actually, they actually prefer to be unemployed, right? But you know it's quite interesting, right? Like how do they manage the other things like financially and all that? So it's a very interesting topic. I think that's also why the World Health, the World Mental Health Day, the theme is workplace mental health, right?
Young people meaning what generation?
They know Gen Z, yeah.
Gen Z.
Yeah. The Zoomers, so we're becoming more and more like that. Yeah. I think we're all Gen Zs here, right? Are we?
Yeah.
So yeah, pretty much.
As you were saying regarding the toxic environment, I believe that those days work is very important. But nowadays mental health is the main factor. And what if you're not happy with the job that you're living in? And every day, because you get to see the same people every day, and you can't avoid them. So what do you think could be the coping mechanism, or how well we can shift our paradigm of mentality? Because we can't change them. And if a person is willing to change, or at least being aware of his or her own actions, then hurting people is like catastrophic, and it can be disastrous. If only they can place themselves in other person's shoes, I believe kindness goes a very long way, and the world will be a better place. Your thoughts on that?
So that's actually this thing, right? Where we say it's called the 90-10 rule. 90% of the things that happen to you are in your mind, and the 10% is all the extreme factors. Right? So when we're talking about toxic people and all of that, that's just the 10%. Why are you letting them affect you? Right? That's in your head. That's the 90%.
Because we're overthinkers.
Yes, you're overthinking. So try to reframe what it is that you are expecting from it. Like, do you need their approval? Is there something that you can do to prevent all of this? Right? Because a lot of it is just social, right? It's just social things. It's not really work thing, right? Sometimes it is, but sometimes it is emotional, like social. It's in your mind, right? But it's also important that you have a good support system. Because I understand when you're dealing with toxic people, you often feel like alone. So it's important that you have a good support system. Now, a support system doesn't necessarily have to be within your workplace or organization or anything. You can have outside workplace. A lot of people before, right? Their social support was always there. Their spouses, their family, their parents, and all that. Nowadays, maybe we have more friends and all that. So you can find social support anywhere, right? A good support system goes a long way, I think. If you're the type of person who needs that support, right? But it's also important that you understand, like, why is it that we need support in the first place? Am I not able to live by myself? Like, why is it that you need support? And that has a lot of factors as well. It also depends on like where your position in the organization is.
I feel like we need support in our lives because we are social creatures. So, do you have any advice to anybody who feels isolated but have to manage multiple responsibilities? They feel isolated. They actually do have friends, but they just feel isolated.
You mean friends in the workplace?
No, like outside work.
So again, it depends on like why do you need support, right? So for example, maybe you feel like if I had support, then my job would be easier, right? In that case, you might think, okay, so how do I make it easier without support, right? You can try to upskill yourself, become even more competent at your job, whereby you don't even need help people. You're able to do all of this by yourself. You've got that such a high self-esteem that people don't even bother you anymore, right? If they don't want to do it, then that's up to them, right? I can do this by my own, right? You get more confident. When you say isolated, right? You have friends isolated. Does that mean you're isolated from your friends outside? Or
it feels like they cannot show their weakness.
I see.
Because they're reminded of multiple responsibilities, so they have to stay strong because people look up to them.
I see.
So they cannot really just share their emotions to anybody, right? Yeah. So what's your advice to those kind of people?
Yeah. So again, I think it's important that you do have a support system. It could be anybody, it could just be one person. At the end of the day, as a counseling student, that's my job, right? Come to a counselor, talk about your issues, find solutions for your issues, right? So I think this goes back to your original question. What prevents you? Because she doesn't even think about going to a counselor. He said, oh, I don't want people to look at me. Yeah, you go to a counselor, right? It's right there. Seek help. There's many ways to seek help, and there's no shame in seeking help, right? You have a flu, as you said. A flu is a small thing, but you seek help anyways because you don't want to be inconvenient. You don't want to feel inconvenient, right? The same thing with mental health, right? You don't want to feel inconvenient for yourself, so you seek help. There's no shame in that at all.
I see.
Yeah.
So it's you have to have a good support system outside the place that you have traveled with.
If you're able to find it within the organization,
yeah, that's the ideal.
Yeah, that's good as well.
Do you have any personal coping mechanisms that you want to share?
For me,
yeah.
For what sort of issues?
I mean, in general. I mean, yeah. Have you ever like explored multiple like techniques or strategies to cope, and what works for you or what didn't work for you?
Because as a counselor, you hear a lot of
You hear a lot,
problems.
yes.
So who are people that will be hearing about your problems?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, this is a question that us counseling put us students with.
There's a counselor has its own counselor.
Yeah.
And a doctor has its own doctor.
And then that counselor has their own counselor, right?
It's a cheat.
Yes, it's changed. So all the way to the top. Yeah. So yeah, counselors actually do have their own counselors as well.
I see.
Yeah. So for me personally, I'm very grateful for my classmates, for our batch. We have 57 people. And one of the good things, I think the perks about being a counseling student is that everyone's always checking up on each other. Yeah. You always say, are you okay? You look like this a bit. Are you okay?
You're a bit down.
Yeah. So everyone's feeling down, but everyone understands that we're in this together. So everyone's always checking up on each other. So me personally, my coping mechanism, I enjoy spending my time with people.
So socializing.
Yeah, you know, because as a counselor, I think you need to socialize, right? You need to be a people person. And I enjoy the time I spend with my friends because I think my time, especially as a final year student, is very limited. Especially since I'm also the president of the Counseling Association and I'm part of other clubs as well, another club. So I've got a lot on my plate actually, and as a student and also as a child, you know, I still live with my family, and then so many things. You wear different hats, right? Today you're a counselor, tomorrow you're a student, and later on you're this and that. So for me, the way I decompress after a long day, I spend time with my friends. You know, I just talk to them, get to know what's been going on with them lately, and that really helps me a lot personally. Right? I help each other.
That's your safety net.
Yes. But also I understand that for some people maybe they're not extroverted like myself, they're introverted, so they prefer to just go home and just like spend time.
Netflix.
You know, again, it depends on the person.
I would like to ask you, have you ever went through a hardship that you just felt that, oh my God, it's going to be the end of the world? Because I believe that no one's life is perfect.
Yeah.
We all might have our own ups and downs.
Yeah.
Focusing on the downs, because I believe that the viewers out there, they would really want to know, as a counselor like you, how you really went through the battle, your go-to solutions, and standing strong today. You believe what was your motivation, or perhaps the things that were useful for you.
Yeah. So I've experienced this 2 times. Once was a personal issue, like a relationship issue with someone, and the second time was like this semester actually, with the responsibilities. But I think we're talking about responsibilities, right? So I'll just talk about that one. And in this semester actually, I feel like there's so much work to do for myself. For final year students, we have so many programs, we have so many counseling sessions that we need to conduct, there's so many programs outside that we need to conduct. On top of that, I'm also the president of the University Malaya's Counseling Association, PERKUM, and I'm also part of another club actually. It's called Global Buddies. I don't know if you guys heard of it, but shout out to them. They basically take care of the exchange students who come here. So there's so many responsibilities this semester. There's so much time-consuming activities, and all of those activities are very dynamic. in their timing. So we had a lot of programs that we had to reschedule.
Nice.
So it's like, okay, we plan programs, so okay, we have to reschedule, okay. So I have to clear my schedule again. And then, oh, we have to clear my schedule again. Okay, this one's cancelled, we have to do this. And it just feels like you're just never taking a break because I was supposed to take a break tomorrow, but then this program got cancelled, so now I have to do this tomorrow, right? And it's been really stressful this semester. Luckily though, I understood that I needed to do something. So what I did was I did milestones.
Milestones.
Yeah, small tasks. Okay, I prioritized what I needed to do. Okay, obviously the first thing is academic, and clubs come second, and then also your family, right? My family. So I said, okay, for my academic, what did I need to do? So try not to think about it in such a big scope, right? Like, oh, I need to pass this subject. Do small. Okay, today, today let's just start doing this assignment. Let's say one subject, 3 assignments. Don't think, oh, 3 assignments. Start with one. You know, one assignment doing this and that. So when you have milestones, you feel like a sense of gratification. You know, oh, I'm doing progress. If your milestone is so big, you feel like you're not doing progress because you can't really.
How much you do, you're never going to reach that.
You're not really like measuring that, right? Yeah. So it's good that you have a sense of measurement and you make it small, so that you're always like, okay, this one's done, this one's done, this one's done. You're doing. So that will help you in a way. That's what I did this semester. There's still so many things that I still need to do, but I feel like even today, this one was like one of my milestones. Okay, this for me, I consider this as a duty to my club, because not just my club but my course, because not a lot of people are not necessarily not aware, but they know that counseling exists. But as you said, there's a lot of stigma behind it. So for me, this is like my duty for my course, right, or my passion, or whatever you want to call it, right? So this is like a milestone for me. Okay, I did this, and to me, this is done, right? This is like a checkbox, and I've achieved something. So it's just small things, right?
Baby steps, small wins.
Exactly. Even though like all of this is not even by me, you know, this is by you guys. Right? You guys are doing most of the work. I'm just here just talking, right? But you know, it's a good thing. Yeah. And I appreciate you guys for doing this podcast as well.
How can students recover from their setbacks?
Yeah.
Example, failing in subjects, and like what you say, the failures, or it can be just like an argument with their peers. A lot of things I would say can really demote a person. So how can they really recover? And I believe that talking about academics, you know, some students they can be overwhelmed with a lot of X number of subjects, perhaps too interested in one subject and they fail to focus on the other subjects equally. That results in neglecting the important subjects. Perhaps how they can really recover from their setbacks.
So I don't want to say that's all right. You know, there's a silver lining to that. You know, I don't want to say that because that can come off as toxic positivity, right? Yeah, it's okay. You know, there's something like that. But at the same time, oftentimes there is a silver lining to it, right? That of course something bad happens, but you need to remember that your life is not just bad. You also have good things in your life, and that's one thing that we need to remember as well. That failure in like one subject or something like that, it's not the end of the world, right? So we call these as ants, ants, right? Automatic negative thoughts. So these are just thoughts that subconsciously just pop in your head. It's just like automatically negative thoughts.
You get 9 A's in your exam, but then 1 B and you only focus on the B.
Exactly. So that's like all or nothing thinking, right? We call that as all or nothing thinking. Like it's either I pass this or I'm a failure. You know, like so these are very negative ways of thinking. And again, there's so many ways that you can deal with it. Get back from your setback. It really depends on each individual case. That's why I would suggest just go to counseling, because some people, when you have an issue, you're so tunnel vision on your issue, like you don't really look at the other things around you, you don't look at the good things around you. So you need like a third person, like a second person third party to tell you like, listen, based on what you say, there's so many other things around you that you didn't take into consideration. And this is what counselors do, they analyze your situation and they point out things that you don't see in yourself. So I would say, it's a case-by-case basis. In general, I think you should remember that your life you have a lifelong journey up ahead, and there's so many good things about yourself anyways. But at the end of the day, if you really can't cope with it, please just seek help. Seek help. And I don't really want to say seek help, just seek assistance, right? Because
You need to seek help.
just come talk. It's just talking, right? We do it every day, so why not talk to the counselor?
And especially when someone is there to listen to your stories, I feel like that can really take a lot of the burden.
Of course.
Yeah. Perhaps you can tell us about your counseling services, because a lot of UM students are watching this, and it can be very much helpful for them, resourceful as to how they can seek for help for their mental health.
Yeah. All right. So currently, in the Faculty of Education, we 4 years counseling students. We're doing counseling sessions, and it's all free of charge. All of us are still trainee counselors, but I can assure you, most of us, I would say 90% of us, are great counselors and very professional and very. I would say that we should give them a chance. They're very good. But of course,
excellence.
Yeah, you can visit us on Instagram, PERKUM.un, PERKUM.un. We also have a website actually, www.mycounseling. MYKAUNSELING.com, right? And if you don't want to go for students, you want to go for someone who's more professional, UM actually has CCDE, Center for Counseling and Disability Empowerment. They as well offer free counseling services to all staff and UM students. So please just reach out to all of them.
Nice. How can a student approach a counselor if he or she is feeling so nervous? Like what if I were to share my stories?
Yes, please share somebody.
Example, I believe that not everyone is capable of, or perhaps brave enough to share their stories. Any advice perhaps for those students who are feeling so nervous to approach the counselor?
So, I guess one of the things that you mentioned was that they're nervous because you're afraid to share and you don't know what this person's going to think, right? So, as counselors, we are actually trained in how to react, how to talk to people, and how to digest like an issue. And one of the important factors, one of the things that we were taught as a counselor is that you need to have unconditional positive regard. Unconditional positive regard. That means that we accept everyone for how they are. If you ask the counseling students, counseling students are the most, I would say, has one of the most interesting courses because we're always going out. Like some of my friends, they went to prisons, they went to rehab centers. We meet all types of people. So I think you, as a person, nobody's going to judge you. If you go to counseling, they're not going to judge you. If that's what you're feeling the most. At the end of the day, we want to help you, but we can't help you if you don't want to help yourself, right? And when it comes to confidentiality, of course, we have laws that are in place to protect your rights. All of us counselors, even our training counselors, we are under the code of ethics that's actually written in the Akta Counselor, and there's a law for it. So don't worry about that. You have your rights, and your rights will be protected.
Perhaps I would also like to take this opportunity to ask each of you, and I may also have my own sharing on that. If you have that opportunity, perhaps you can have this as your own. What would you tell the younger self? I know it can be a very subjective question, but perhaps if Dinda or Brian would like to start.
Maybe Brian first.
Brian first.
Well,
what would you tell the younger self?
you should stay in medical school. Or you should just become a counselor because you make it sound so interesting. Because yes, I also love to help people. So that's why I went to medical school actually. But the workload and the stress just was too much. I was burnt out every single day. I just had to get out there. I couldn't do that anymore because I was also working at that time. A medical student in itself is already a lot of work. But when you're working full time, it was too much. I had to go. So I dropped out medical school and then went here actually.
You
If I can go back 5 years, I should have just stayed, yeah. Because I could have handled it by talking to a counselor myself. But you know, as when you're raised by an Asian mom, especially Chinese, you will know they don't really prioritize mental health. You just kind of deal with it and not just handle yourself, yeah.
But you know, there's something good about that is because even though you decided to leave, you're still surviving until now, right?
Yeah.
So that shows the resilience that you've gone through and the hard work that you've put in. And I hope that it was worth it in the end for you. And I think it will be for you as well. Because I see that not many people are able to do what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
So it's a very good thing for you, and I hope you look at the good side of yourself as well.
I see, so we have to focus on positives rather than negatives, right?
Definitely.
I mean, you can. You also have to acknowledge the negative, right?
Yeah.
You can't help yourself if you don't acknowledge that there is a problem, there is an issue. So I'm not saying just focus on the positive, but I'm saying there is a positive. No matter whatever that happens, you as a person are not defined by your problem. At the end of the day, that's what the takeaway is. It's not just focusing on the positive. It's that your problems do not define you.
Perhaps I would tell my younger self that don't always wait for the right time. If you feel like, I'm able to do it, then just give it a try. Because if you were to overthink or perhaps like having that sort of like nervousness in you, you will not be able to do it. And when you regret, it might be just too late. I would tell that to my younger self. Yeah. Had I been asked this like 10 years back or at least 5 years back, just give it a try. Winning or losing is a secondary. But at least the pride and the braveness of trying something, I think it gives so much of value. At the end of the day, there will be a lesson that you might be able to learn or develop yourself better. Or perhaps you just feel like, okay, I believe that I could have done things differently.
It's important to make mistakes.
Yeah, it's okay to make mistakes. Yeah.
All that's a learning process, right?
True.
All that help you get to where you are.
Yeah. Life itself is a lifelong learning journey.
Lifelong learning journey. I agree with that. Well, for me, I think what would I say to my younger self? Probably try to be more open with yourself. Try to be more honest with your feelings, because I think I was not a very open person back then, because I've always been taught to be independent because I'm an only child. So everything has to be on you. But I think it would be better if I can try to try to communicate better about what I'm feeling, because it's not good to bottle up your emotions and try to seek help from other people. Just like the counseling thing. Other than that, maybe don't compare yourself to other people too much.
Because we're all living on different lives, right?
We have different backgrounds. We don't start the same.
No two people are the same.
No two snowflakes are the same. Yeah.
Ready to talk about myself?
Yeah. We're waiting for that moment.
Maybe I'll just talk to myself in 5 years before this. I was what? 21. I think I was quite young at the time. I was dealing with a lot of things at the time, and I think I would tell myself at the time, don't worry. In the end, it gets better. And in the end, all your problems will resolve somehow. And just always try to be a better person. That's what I always say to myself. And that's always what I try to be every day.
I think there's even a quote for that. These too shall pass.
Yeah, these too shall pass.
When you share that, I just felt that it's connecting what you have said. Okay, if there's any question, perhaps we can try to ask Andi. What's that one piece of advice you would give uni students in going through the industry life? Yeah, because uni life at the end of the day, it's not like for 10 years or more than that. It's just going to be a very short span of time, 4 to 5 years or perhaps 3 to 4 years. What's that one piece of advice that you would like to give the students?
One piece of advice I would give to students. I think it's something that you said in the beginning, right? Be kinder self-talk too much about the things that happen to you and the things that other people do to you. At the end of the day, you know yourself better than anyone else. And if you know yourself, then I think it's enough for you to be kind to yourself. And that's I think that's one of the things that a lot of people forget. That being nice is not just about to other people, but also to yourself and to your needs and to the people most important to you as well. So that's what I would say to new students.
I think there's like a silver lining, but people tend to misconcept that when someone is like taking any sort of decision, it can be self-love, but the perception of others can be different sometimes. They might think that I think he or she is being selfish, but little do they even know that it's a self-focus that comes to first place. It's a very great piece of advice. I believe that that advice will be very useful for our students.
That's very bushy. And before I start crying, we are running out of time, everyone.
So we have come to the end of the session. But before we end the session, I really want to say a huge thank you to Andi
Give him a round of applause.
for the wonderful session. Even we as master students, we have been learning a lot. I mean, for me personally, I was able to have a different thought, or perhaps I was able to think from different angles when you say that, like, oh yeah, it really makes sense. So thank you so much.
Thank you for
taking your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you also for
Thank you so much.
putting your time as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for putting your time as well. And I understand you guys are working. I think you guys are much more busy than I am. But you guys have put your time and effort for this. I don't think it's just for your project, but it's also for the greater good of the society, right? This is posted on the internet. So it's a good thing, it's a good cause, and thank you so much for having me. I think there will be much better people than me, but I hope the things that I answered tonight will be beneficial for everyone.
Definitely. We are so grateful, and most importantly, thank you for your time. We believe that this session will be an impactful session as well as informative to all the students, as well as for us as working adults and students of UM as well. So thank you so much. Do not forget to follow Mindful Lingua as well as PERKUM UM. And our mascot is just right behind us. Stay tuned for more updates, and hopefully we'll be able to have some collaboration or any sort of events.
We're looking forward to it.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. Alright, thank you guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.